Hello everyone, welcome to this new channel. It's called The Christ of England. Now this movement I have set up called The Christ of England is to create a spiritual revolution in our country. And everybody knows that Britain is broken Britain. And the way we can save our country is not through political means, but with a spiritual revolution. And Christ and the Father will save us and set us free from the current system that we are under. And I have set this movement up is because I understand that a lot of British people are absolutely fed up with the state of our country. And a lot of content creators are providing a lot of content, but there's no action to actually make positive change and no positive vision for the people. We're just kind of complaining about, oh, too much illegal immigration, cost of living crisis, the crime rates and all the mess our country's in. But we need to start acting and doing things. And that's why I have set up this movement called the Christ of England, and I believe it's the best movement because it has the power of the Father and of Christ. And it's the role that the church should play, because a lot of people think that we need to return to Christianity to restore England, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe we need to turn to the Father through the Spirit of Christ and understand the true message of Christ, which is standard spiritual wisdom that has taken part in all traditional societies throughout history. And the Christ of England would represent what Jesus spoke about, and the Church of England is like the Pharisees and the religious people at the time who Jesus criticised. It's the same thing that I say to the Christians. I say, look, I kind of agree with most of the things you say, but you lack the Spirit. You don't know the Father. You're blind fools. You go to a church. Oh, excuse me, I saw someone the other day saying, well, I thought we need to return to Christianity. So I went to church and it was just full of like 80-year-olds. And all the priest said the whole time was, you're terrible people, you need to accept Jesus to save your soul. That's not what we need. We need real spiritual wisdom. What I'm saying is, be born again in the Spirit, which returns you to the Father because you realise you're a spirit, not just flesh and blood. And then we know God, who is Spirit. And then once we realise that, we bring that light into the world and we can restore our country with the light, with the Force, if you use the analogy from Star Wars. And we can change things for the better in our country. So that's what the Christ of England I want to be. I want it to be like a movement that Jesus had 2,000 years ago in England. So we will replace the Church of England. The second point is, how will I run it? As I said, I'm not a great fan of all these influencers or people who have YouTube channels and all this stuff. They're exposing it and they're making money. And, come subscribe to my channel, become a member, join my YouTube, give me super chats on the lives. They're making so much money, but they're not doing anything really that's positive and out making difference. It's just self-enrichment, complaining about what's going on in the country. So then I decided, let me set this up and all the money will go to serving England with the power of Spirit and of Christ. And as I say, I have another YouTube channel, but I'm not interested in creating my own brands and all this stuff. I want to do something that makes a difference. And I want to set it up as a charity, but when I looked into it, it was difficult because you have to involve the government and get all trustees and you can't talk about politics. So for the moment, I am running it as a self-employed business, but I promise for now, or for all time, 100% of the donations of money we make will be used for the movement. At some point, I may have to quit my jobs and do this full time, but one of the laws in the Constitution that I'm coming up with is no employee will ever be able to earn more than the average wage of the country. And that's the rule that I believe politicians should have, because people who want to have positions of influence should only accept the average wage. Because if politicians had to accept the average wage, they'd be affected by the cost of living crisis and they would make sure they do their jobs properly. And that's the same thing that I want to do with the Christ of England. But for now, I'm doing all this work for free. This is my part of the donation. But if I have to go full time, which hopefully I want to do this full time, then I will take a small wage. I wouldn't even really take the average wage. I could probably live off 20 grand a year. But as I say, I want to get 1 million people joined up, donating £5-10 a month, get super rich people donating and bringing in millions and millions a year. So it's not about self-enrichment. I'm not doing this as my YouTube channel. Come and join my YouTube channel and donate to me and all this stuff. No, this is about Christ and England, about a movement that people can look to have a bit of light in the country. Okay, so the next point I want to say is we are not voting our way out of this. And in a lot of videos I see people talking and it's all about politics. And the comment is, we're not voting our way out of this, and I agree. Now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I believe we should ignore politics, because I believe there are people out there who would be good politicians and prime ministers. For example, I back Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe, and it's a shame that they're not in charge of Reform, because if they were, then we would have a good chance, because Reform are virtually favourites for the next election. But with Mohammed Yusuf and Nigel Farage, the fraud, in charge, regardless whether they win or not, they're not going to do what needs to be done. They're too weak, they're not wise enough. We need people like Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe. They're my two choices. But ultimately, what we need to do is look to something beyond that and understand that we have the power, in terms of, if we can focus our power onto the Spirit, that is the most important thing in all of our lives. And if we come to Christ, come to the Father, and get millions of us doing it, we can make the needed change with or without the politicians. And we'll be able to influence the politicians in a similar way that the Muslims try to do and the globalists try to do. We just need a small minority to be backed by the majority, and then we can make change. That's what the Muslims do. They get a few people in positions of power, you know, Mayor of London, First Minister of Scotland, Head of Ofsted, and they want to take all these little positions, and then all the Muslims will just vote for them, and then they'll take over. And we can't allow that to happen. We can't allow England to become a Muslim country. England belongs to Christ and to the English. So what we do, get the Christ of England. I'll get myself, a man of Christ. I can get intellectual people. I can get experts on law. So we got all the bases covered. I'll get warriors ready to defend us and fight for us. So once that's all done, and then the British people come in supporting that organised minority, then we'll defeat anybody. Christ and the English people and the good foreigners here who support England will destroy anyone. The globalists and the Islamists are nothing when Christ and the English come together in our homeland, backed by the Father. Easy work. We will destroy anybody. It's not time to be downbeat and crying about it. It's time to go and take our country back with the power of Christ for the Father, and be a shining light to the world and show the way. That's what we've always done. The English and British, we've made a lot of mistakes, but guess what? Everybody's made mistakes all throughout history. But the British are generally forefront. You know, we were the first ones to end slavery. We're the first ones to stick it to the Nazis. We're the first ones to bring more civility to the world. Okay, we've made mistakes. Yes, everybody's made mistakes. Have the Muslims learned anything in 1400 years? Not really. They're doing the same stuff. They're still trying to marry kids and spread jihad, you know, and cause chaos in the world. But we've evolved, and we need to be the light. We have a duty to God to make sure that the light is maintained and darkness doesn't overcome the world. And I believe we are in the era of the return of Christ, and we can get going. We just got to get to action. Okay. Now, number 4 is, I have a plan. And the first stage of the plan is to get our numbers up. So what I need is your support. Subscribe to the channel, share it. Every time you're talking to someone and they're saying, oh, the country's messed up, blah, 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 tell them, go and join, subscribe to Christ for England on YouTube, on X. Go and donate, do a monthly income. I'm even donating. I'm donating myself. I set up the first person. I've spent a fair amount of money setting all this up. And I'm even donating. So follow my example and get involved in terms of spreading the message. The main thing we need to do is get numbers up. So whenever you see someone complaining, tell them, subscribe, Christ of England, Christ of England. This is the place we need to go. All the Christians who go to church, tell them, stop going to church. Look at this Christ of England. That's where we can do it. Okay? So that's pretty much what I have to say in this video. This movement, the Christ of England, we can grow it. And ultimately, it's up to the English people. I'm doing this because I came to a point where I'm like, well, I've got a fairly comfortable life. And I could almost just go off grid somewhat and just have a quiet life. That's what I want. But then I feel a pull to be of service. So I thought, let me start this, be of service. And then it's up to the people to decide if they're willing to save their country. If you're willing to support, I'm just one man. I can't do it on my own. If you're willing to support and you want to save England, it's up to you. Get out, spread the word, donate, put your money where your mouth is, and listen to my plans and follow my instructions. And we will go to the promised land because they come from Christ and the Father. And I will get things wrong, but my intentions will always be 100% pure and in the right spirit. Even though I may make mistakes, I will always be working for the good of the people and for the good of the Father. Okay, so I want people to be positive. Let's focus on doing good. We need to give our youth hope. We need to fight evil, and we need to promote Christ and the English people and the good foreigners. And we need to unite in that spirit. We can't unite in the flesh, but we unite in the spirit, and then we'll go out and destroy those of the flesh. And as I say, people are worried about Islam and the globalism. They are nothing compared to Christ and the English and the good foreigners and all the good people in the world. Even Americans, Indians, Pakistanis, whoever. If you like what I'm saying and you want to help, even you can donate, absolutely. Come and help, because ultimately it's about God the Father and sharing his light and loving people. But loving people also means fighting evil. Okay, that's the point of my video today. If you like this, subscribe. I'll put a link to my personal YouTube channel, which gives a lot of my spiritual wisdom, teaches you about Islam and Christianity and the truth of God and the Father. Subscribe to that to learn more there. And in the meantime, I'll be back soon. Stay tuned. God bless everybody. Goodbye.